When we took this job, I was so proud, and we were out recruiting, out there hunting all you guys. Here you all are. I wanted Duke football. You asked Pickle on everything. Didn't want just Duke. Duke football, Duke football. Every airport I was in, somebody was going to come by with a joke. Oh, y'all got a football team? Y'all really play football at Duke? I heard it, and I heard it, and I heard it. All it did was fuel the fire. Fuel the fire. Wanted to find you, and you, and you, and you. We recruited a great bunch of people here. Outstanding athletes. Outstanding athletes. Does Duke play football? Yes, sir. You're damn right we play football.
Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'll be discussing the Duke Blue Devils and their successful 2013 season. Now when you think about Duke sports, you'll probably think of basketball, but in the 2013 season, Duke football was an elite team. And today I'll discuss everything of that 2013 season and the impacts today. This season changed Duke football forever, and I want to go over it. So as you can see from the graphic on the right, Duke football had not been very good for many years. Even before 2005, they had terrible seasons. I mean, these were seasons where they were winning 2 or 1 games, or stretches of even 10 years. Duke football was not very good. Previous head coaches like Ted Roof, Carl Franks, and Fred Goldsmith had not been very good. They were not very successful head coaches, even though Fred Goldsmith did have one single successful year in which he won 8 games. Let's talk about David Cutcliffe. David Cutcliffe was a coach at Tennessee for many different years, taking over many different positions, and he had a ton of experience. All this would land him a head coaching position at Ole Miss, where he would go on to recruit Eli Manning. Everyone knows Eli Manning, successful player in the NFL and college. Despite some successful years at Ole Miss, he would later go on to coach back at Tennessee and move on to head coach at Duke. He would take up this position at Duke in 2008 and end in 2021. Many successful years at Duke, but that is what I'll talk about for the rest of the video. For a successful 2013 season, you might be thinking in his first season, maybe he won 6 games, maybe he won 7. But in his first season, he won 4 games. Now you might be thinking, this is bad. They only won 4 games. This is not good for a head coach. Most coaches would be berated by fans for only winning 4 games. It would be called a trash season. But for Duke, this was actually a decent season, as in the previous 4 years, they had only won 1 2-win season. All the other rest of those 4 years were 0 and 1-win seasons. This is the state of mediocrity, not mediocrity, of terribleness of Duke football that was before David Cutcliffe. This is absolutely terrible. Like I said before, the other coaches had failed, and David Cutcliffe took over a program that was failing, that didn't have a ton of support, that didn't have good recruiting. This is what he had to take. In his second season, he would go 5-7, a huge step forward. Only 1 win, but you could see the improvement with the players and with the wins they were getting. You might be thinking, oh, next season he goes 6-6 or 7-6. He'd continue to go on with his coaching career, and in 2013 he'd have an amazing season. Well, this isn't exactly what happened. He faced a roadblock in the way of success with his 2010 seasons. In 2011 season, he would go 3-9. Terrible. Keep in mind, 4-8, 5-7, 3-9, 3-9. There is very little Power 4 programs, but previously Power 5 programs that would allow this to happen and still not fire their head coach or still not make some sort of big change. Yet this is Duke. They had previous 0-win seasons, previous 1-win seasons, previous terrible seasons. This wasn't too bad for them. I just want to reiterate this because I just want to show how bad Duke absolutely was. All the fortunes would change in 2012. In the season, they would go 6-7 and make a bowl game for the first time since 1995, where they would go on to play in the Belk Bowl and lose to Cincinnati. But despite that, this is an incredible improvement. Like I said before, first time since 1995. David Cutcliffe had shown clear improvement with the team, but still no one had had a clue what would go on in the 2013 season, and Duke fans had a great surprise coming for them. But let's talk about the players of the 2012 season. You had Sean Renfree at quarterback. The senior quarterback was a leader for the team, throwing for over 3,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. Connor Vernon would be a great wide receiver. He became the ACC's all-time leader in receptions and was a great target. A great player. I want to emphasize that Connor Vernon was a absolute star. Jawan Thompson, running back, led the team in rushing and provided a solid ground attack for that 2012 season. Some other notable players were Ross Cockrell, Walt Canty, and Will Monday. One thing you will see throughout these seasons is that their special teams was very good, at least with the punter position, with Will Monday definitely being one of the best punters in the country. So let's get into these 2013 season. You start off with an absolute blowout against the NC Central Eagles, winning 45-0. Starting off with this kind of impact, this kind of blowout win definitely helped the morale going into the coming games, where they would beat Memphis. Keep in mind, Memphis, a solid team. People might have even thought that Memphis would beat Duke. But with a 28-14 win, Duke solidified themselves as a 2-win team, which, I mean, in previous years they hadn't even had 2 wins. But in these first 2 games they had 2. Now with a 28-14 win against Memphis, fans might not have been very eager to think that this was going to be a good team. And the next 2 weeks would kind of show that, maybe this was going to be a bad season for Duke, as they would go on to lose against Georgia Tech and in a close one against Pittsburgh. But in the next game, they would have a easy opponent in Troy. Well, not necessarily easy. Troy had a formidable team, but Duke would handle business with a 38-31 team. Not really handling business. I don't know why I said that. Very close game, but they still won. They would go on to beat Navy. This, judging from me, not a very difficult schedule for Duke, but these were teams that were very formidable at the time, and these were teams that Duke would have lost to in the seasons in which they only won 2 or 1 games. Their up-and-coming schedule would be their most difficult, facing off against Virginia, Virginia Tech, NC State, Miami, Wake Forest, and North Carolina. They would go on to win all of those games, every single one of them, and they would go on to win their side of the conference for the first time. And then they would go on to face Florida State. This was a elite Florida State team, and Duke got absolutely blowed out 45-7. They would still land a spot in a very good bowl game, playing against Texas A&M, where they would go on to lose that one. Still a very successful season, still a 10-2 regular season, a season where if they would have beat Pittsburgh, they might have even had a chance to go to the playoffs and potentially a national championship. So yeah, very, very much a successful season. David Cutcliffe would win ACC Coach of the Year, leading their team to their first 10-win season in school history. Kurt Roper, the offensive coordinator, would play a pivotal role, and Jim Knowles, if that's how you say it, would play another big role as defensive coordinator. This might be the best season in Duke history, or potentially one of the best. You get that 10-2 regular season record with the most wins in Duke football history. You win your side of the division for the first time, and you have a ACC Conference Championship berth, showing David Cutcliffe was the absolute best coach for the role of Duke head coach. Anthony Boone would be your starting quarterback for the season. He had 2,000 passing yards and 13 touchdowns, although he did have a decent amount of interceptions. Brandon Connett would also get a decent amount of playing time at the quarterback role, also having a ton of yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. Some other notable players are Jamison Crowder, Jella Dunnick, Josh Sneed, Braxton Deaver, and Laken Tomlinson. All very notable players I want to highlight from this season. Most of all, I want to highlight Jamison Crowder, a pivotal player with 8 touchdowns and 1,360 receiving yards. Linebacker Kelby Brown had over 100 plus tackles. David Helton, though, led the team in tackles with over 133 tackles on the season. Some other notable players were Ross Cockrell, Jeremy Cash, and Kenny, a new duck, however you say that. Ross Martin for kicker was a very great player. He didn't necessarily hit everything, but he scored game winners that helped Duke win a couple games. Will Munday would still be one of the best punters in college. Potentially, he might have just been the exact reason on why they won a decent amount in 2012 and in 2013. Having a great punter is very necessary for college football and to win a bunch of games. As I said before, David Cutcliffe would part ways with the team in the 2021 season, finishing off his time with a 3-9 record. 2018 was his last good season, as he would go on to have a very mediocre 2019 year, and 2020 and 2021 were not very good years for the team. Mike Elko would go over to take over the reins of the team. He would have a 9-win year in his first year. Second year, he would win 8, and then in his third year, he would yet again win 9 games. It's very clear that David Cutcliffe set a winning culture at Duke, and he passed the torch to a head coach that is hoping to continue that success from David Cutcliffe, and hopefully Mike Elko will take Duke into a new successful era where maybe in this 12-team playoff format, Duke could sneak in if they win enough games and if they're lucky. If you want to support the channel, like, subscribe, and comment your favorite thing about the video, maybe a harsh criticism of the video, whatever you really want. Anyways, peace.